Okay, so the next essay that we will be looking at is of the topic public sector, where you are being told to discuss in detail the public sector failure, and you have to link them with typical problems experienced through public sector provisioning, right? So the first thing that you need to do, you need to define what you understand about public sector failure. We know when we are talking about public sector, we are talking about the government, right? So if the government is failing, this means the government is not providing us with the goods and services that we need. That's public sector failure, right? Okay, so we are saying it occurs when a government intervention fails to meet the desired outcome, making the existing economic situation worse. Occurs when a government intervention fails to meet the desired outcome, making the existing economic situation worse. Okay, the public sector or the government intervention, it is not giving us the services and the goods that we need, right? So therefore, that's public sector failure, because it's making the existing economic situation worse. Now, the reason for public sector failure, which is what you need to talk about, we are saying we have 7 of them, right? There's management failure. In terms of management failure, we are saying the management cannot assess the needs of the people, right? So if you can't assess the needs, what people really want, you might actually end up oversupplying something, right? And at the end of the day, it will lead to shortages, right? We are also saying the management, they do not have the right skills. If you don't have the right skills for the job, you end up applying the wrong policies. We are also saying the management doesn't have accountability. If there's no accountability for the funds that you were given, this means this is going to open the door for corruption. So therefore, all of that in terms of management failure will lead to public sector failure. Then we have apathy. When there's apathy, we are saying these people are not motivated, or they don't have interest, right, to do their job, right? So therefore, we are saying there will be corruption, there will be poor service delivery, because you lack concern, right? You lack the interest to do your job really well. So this means there will be inefficiencies in terms of apathy. Then we are saying bureaucracy. In terms of bureaucracy, we are saying there are complex rules that needs to be followed before a service can be delivered, right? So this means for a service to be delivered, it's going to take time, right? So that's what bureaucracy, right? We have to follow protocol before we deliver a service, right? Then there's lack of motivation, right? Lack of motivation, we are looking at nationalizing, right? When we nationalize our business, meaning we are turning it from it being a private owned by the private individuals to it being owned by the government, we are saying the employees of that organization, they will lose motivation. And when they lose motivation because they are not being recognized, what is going to happen? They are going to provide an inefficient service, right? Or this will lead to inefficiencies, right? Because they are not recognized. So if you are not recognized in your job, you will lose motivation. Then there are politicians, right? We know that these people, they promise us a lot of things. And at the end of the day, once we elect them, they do not do what they said they are going to do, right? So therefore, we are saying politicians, they lack accountability. And this also leads to to corruption. Then we have structural weakness. We are saying the structure of the public sector is what is weak. In terms of weak, we are saying these people are incompetent, right? Incompetency means you do not have the right skills and the right knowledge for the job. So therefore, if you do not have the right skills and the right knowledge for the job, you're not going to provide an efficient service, right? Because you actually might not know what you are doing, right? Then we have the special interest groups. We are saying these people, they may influence the decisions of the government, right? We are talking about trade unions, right? So trade unions, as we know, they may fight for higher salaries, for example, for teachers, for police force, right? So if they fight for a higher salary, or if they influence that decision, they are going to actually cause the government to provide more money to the education sector. And if there's more money being allocated to the government, to the again education sector, this means someone or something is not going to get what funding, right? For example, maybe it could be healthcare, and at the end of the day, the public sector will fail to deliver a particular service, right? Okay, so looking at the management failure, number one, we are saying since assessing the needs is difficult, therefore the state might oversupply some goods and undersupply some goods, right? In this way, the management was not able to satisfy the needs of the consumers, and there will be wastages leading to public sector failure, right? People working in parastatals might lack what? Management skills, and might end up implementing the wrong policies that may cause the public sector to fail. If the management cannot explain the decisions they took, nor explain how the money that was allocated to them was spent, then they are not being accountable, and this may result in corruption, right? So the first point, we are saying it is difficult to assess the needs. If it is difficult, this will lead to an oversupply and undersupply of some goods, right? The second point, we are saying the management in this way, right? Going back to the first point, right? The management was not able to satisfy what the needs of the consumers, and there will be what wastages. If there are wastages, this will lead to public sector what failure, right? And we are also saying these people, they do not have what, or they lack management skills. And if you lack management skills, you'll end up applying what wrong policies, and therefore a wrong policy will result to what public sector failure. And also, if you lack accountability, if you cannot explain your decisions, right, how you use the money that was allocated to you, that will definitely, lead to what? To corruption, right? So therefore, this will also cause what? The public sector to fail. So that's what management failure. Then we get to apathy. Remember, apathy is when you lack interest or concern. You just don't care, about your job, right? So the government servants do not provide an efficient service to the public as a result of what? Corruption. If you are corrupt, right? If you are looting the funds of the government or the funds at your workplace, you do not actually have concern. You just don't care about the job that you are doing, right? So we are also saying corruption and poor service delivery are signs of what? Apathy, right? And they may result as a cause of poor accountability, 100%. And then we are saying a parastatal employees, we know that they lack interest or concern because they know that they will get paid even when they are what? Underperforming, right? So we are saying, these people, they don't provide an efficient service, right? There's corruption and poor service delivery. And we are also saying, these people, they know that at the end of the day, they will end up being paid. So that's why they might not do their job really well. You see, so all you just need to do is to explain what you understand about each point, right? Then we have bureaucracy, where we are saying there's complex rules that has to be followed before a service can be delivered, right? So we are saying complex rules and procedures might lead to inefficiencies in the public sector, and the public sector might fail to provide the goods and the services in time. You see, this in time, they might not be able to provide the goods and services in time. So we are saying if there's an electricity fault, right, you need to first report it to the Eskom company, that state company, right, before they can come and fix it. Even if you see the van of Eskom passing at your house, you cannot stop it and say, I have a fault in my house. No, you have to first go and report it, right? So that it can actually send people to come and fix it. So that's a procedure. That's a rule that has to be followed. You see, so now that leads to Eskom now taking time to fix that electricity fault in your house. You see. Okay, so moving on, lack of motivation. In terms of lack of motivation, we are saying nationalizing companies may demotivate workers to work hard, as their hard work would not be recognized, leading to workers being inefficient, right? So we are saying when companies become nationalized, right? The workers, they are actually less motivated, or they are demotivated. Why? Because their hard work are not what recognized, and at the end of the day they will end up providing what an inefficient service, right? So that's public sector failure. Then we have politicians, right? Like we said about politicians, they lack accountability, right? Lack of accountability by politicians may be as a result of corruption, and this may lead to them not fulfilling the promises that they made to individuals when they were running their campaign. So meaning, once we have elected them, because they lack accountability, they might not fulfill their promises, right, after them being elected, right? And then this now lack of accountability will open a way for what? For resources being looted, or what? Or corruption, right? So that leads to the second point, right? As politicians are not accountable for their actions, then the resources may not be allocated fairly because of corruption, right? And then we have the structural weakness. We are saying the structure of the what public sector is weak, right? In terms of weak, we are saying the workers are incompetent. When you're incompetent is when you can't do your job well, because you don't have the right skills, the right experience, the right qualifications to be able to do the job, right? So on the first point, we are saying incompetency of workers may lead to the workers not being able to provide efficient services to the what? To the public. If you can't provide an efficient service, this means this will lead to the public sector failing, right? Nationalization of companies that provide a different good that the state provides may make it difficult for the state to be able to provide that goods, right? So we are saying, if the state takes a private company and turn it into a public company, let's say that this company was producing nuts, and nuts, let's say it is a basic need, right? But the government specializes in making what? In making apples, right? What is going to happen? The government might not be able to provide this good. Why? Because they might not be competent enough to produce those nuts, right? So therefore, that's part of the structural weakness. And if we cannot provide those nuts, which we are saying that's a basic good, this means the public sector has failed. And then we have the last one, which we call special interest groups. Special interest groups are viewed as those who use their political power to raise demand for public services, as well as using their bargaining power to fight for a higher wage, right? So we are saying people who use their political power to raise the demand for what? For the public services. We are also saying these people, they have a bargaining power, or they use their bargaining power to fight for what? For higher wages, like what? Like trade unions, right? So they may fight for public servants such as teachers, to say you need to pay more to the teachers, right? But now the government did not budget for this. What is going to happen, right? This means the government might not be able to provide some other goods, right? Because it might take for example, money from health and allocated it to education, you see. So we are saying on the second point, special interest groups political power leads to more government spending, which strain the government expenditure for the fiscal year. So like I said, if the money of maybe, for example, the government had planned to hire more health workers this year, but now the trade unions are fighting for teachers to be paid more. Then they take this money from health and they put it into education. What is that going to mean? This may mean that in our health department, or in our clinics, we might not have getting the right amount of staff or nurses to help in that particular field. What is going to happen? Service will not be delivered efficiently, and at the end of the day, the public sector will fail. You just need to explain according to your understanding. Do not cram. This is not difficult.